This is Randy Hale, and I'm here with Josh Meriyah, who's one of the key leaders in our technology organization. And we've been talking about the importance of teams, and as a leader, more importantly, how do you create the right environment to enable improved team performance? So wanted to definitely hear from Josh on his perspective here. Josh, what are some of the more important challenges that you've been facing lately?
Well, in terms of challenges, I was hired here to work at Path to Agility, and when I started working for this software, we had some huge challenges in terms of the software at that point had been entirely written by contractors, and we didn't have anyone in-house overseeing it, and so we had some serious quality issues, and so we had a lot of debt when I first got here. And the question was, how do we clean up that debt effectively? How do we make sure that um, we're still adding value to the company, but while we're adding value to the company, we're doing it in a way that our quality is going to get better, that our software is going to be reliable, and we're delivering, but we're delivering in a way that feels like it's sustainable.
Absolutely. That is definitely a consistent challenge. I know that I see in organizations that I work with is how do you create that healthy balance of we need to be evolving, we need to be continually solving bigger and better problems for our customers and users, and how do we balance that, with the technical debt? I often like to describe there's different kinds of technical debt. There's the mortgage kind of technical debt, which is maybe a savvy, intentional, long-term beneficial balance. But then some types of technical debt I correlate more to, like you have that technical debt is like your 26% credit card that maybe you should pay that off a little quicker. How is that kind of dynamic showing up in your world?
Yeah, what you just said is so relevant. I mean, when I talk about technical debt, I would say to my team, technical debt has compound interest, So if we're
Yeah.
going into a code base and it's a mess and we just add to that mess, right? That software is going to be harder and harder to get clean as we go along, and we're going to have more and more problems. So anytime that we touch something, it is top in our minds. Okay, how do I do this in the right way? How do I
Mhm.
look at the way it's been done, and how do I make sure that I get this in a way that the next person's going to have an easier time looking at this, the next person's going to have an easier time fixing this or changing it, which are the most dangerous things we can do to code is, make a change to it. And code that's a mess is hard to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a leader, what are some of the things that work for you to maybe help calibrate that balance on building something new versus retiring technical debt?
Yeah, so it's got to be there has to be a cultural um, component to this, that we have to have an agreement, obviously within our team. And I think a lot of software teams really do, like I think a lot of software teams, if you said, hey, you can spend the next week just paying down your debt, they're overjoyed to do that, right? So the question is, can you get the rest of the company to buy in? Because if the company hears, oh, they just spent a week, doing a bunch of stuff to the software that's not going to impact users directly, they
Yeah.
don't necessarily feel good. So you have to have buy-in. You have to have good communication with your product leader and with everyone who's on, the other side of the company, to say, hey, this is worth it in the long run. Your features might not come at the, super fast pace, that you might have gotten them otherwise, but it's going to be reliable in the long run. You can count on it. And when you need new features, we're going to be able to do that over time much quicker, because changing the code is going to be easier, and maintaining the code is going to be much easier.
Right. Yeah. The thing I like about what you just said, it rings so true for me in the work that I do with organizations who are, also in pursuit of better. How do we get better? How do we
Yeah.
improve? Is making sure that the measures that leaders are looking at have the right balance as well, because it's very easy to steer the organization to a subset of metrics that if you're lacking that health dimension to how are we working, like what's the health of our code base, what's the health of our team, to your point, as an engineer, if there's areas of the code base that I dread having to go do work there, that's not a great feeling. So, there's a multifaceted aspect to, making sure the right focus on the right blend of things is there. And it's not just about being a feature factory, cranking out, new capabilities, because at some time you'll hit a breaking point.
Yeah, and I think there's a level at which people understand that. I think, when and it depends on somewhat maturity of the company, right? So when people are in startup mode, you just need to get stuff out and you want to see things, you want to see things. And if you just kind of get used to that, hey, more, build, 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 the idea of slowing down and, introducing that element of quality, can be scary. But I think when it's explained, when people, because what happens when you're in that build is things start to break. You start to
Absolutely.
see that this isn't going the way that I actually wanted it to. And so now you're demanding tons of fixes on top of tons of features, and nobody's keeping up. And so that's when you kind of hit that level of, we have to change the way that we're doing things, and we have to have some different agreements.
Yeah. So if you had a bottom line, and let's say the one wish you had that you wish were true for all technically oriented teams, what do you wish was sort of a universal truth?
I think, in terms of in terms of relating to the tech debt kind of thing, the biggest thing is having, the standards and the agreements of, okay, this is what good code actually looks like, and I think most people would mostly agree with that. There's obviously, you can argue over some of the smaller things about some ways you do things, but mostly, can I go into this, understand it really quickly, and be able to work with it? And so it's really about, can we create those standards, and then can we work with the business so that they'll give us the time that we can enforce those standards, that we can make sure that we're writing to those standards. Because again, if you're working at breakneck speed, the first thing that goes is your standards. You just got to get it out there. So I think that's what I found is super important.
Yeah, I think that's really sage wisdom, guidance for everyone, to take away from this conversation. Josh, it's been great focusing in on this important topic with you, and we look forward to the next conversation. Thank
Sounds
you.
great. Great talking to you.